Was the story last night. Now to the story of the year. It's not going away. What is next for Aaron Rodgers and the Packers? We know that Rodgers wants out of Green Bay. And now, according to Adam Schefter, the Packers are getting a backup plan in place. He tweeted this just moments ago. The Packers have begun exploring quarterbacks they can add to their roster for OTAs and training camp per sources. Jordan Love currently is the only other quarterback on the roster, but the team also faces uncertainty surrounding Aaron Rodgers. The Packers' quarterback search includes some veterans. That was Adam Schefter just moments ago. This is Rob Demovsky, our Packers reporter, and you've been covering that team for a quarter of a century, and you've seen some crazy stuff, but this has to take the cake. What can you tell us about the very latest on this saga with Aaron Rodgers?
Yeah, Greeny, you mean besides GM Brian Gutekunst calling everywhere to try to find a quarterback just to come in for OTAs and minicamp because they need a couple more arms? Well, here's another thing. Those inside the building are seething right now because they believe other teams have been tampering with Rodgers. I mean, the violations are obvious. You cannot talk about players in press conferences that are on other teams and talk about pursuing them. And the 49ers have done that. There's indications that maybe the Broncos were involved. A league source told me that the Packers have not, though, filed tampering charges yet. They tried it in 2008, Greeny, with Brett Favre, and it was so difficult to prove that the league basically just dismissed their tampering charges. But it's just another layer to the upsettingness that is this story for the Packers.
I get it, and I understand their frustration with it. It strikes me as though that should be low on their list of concerns right now, but I understand they can do multiple things at the same time. So, are you starting to get any sense of what it is the Packers would need to get back in exchange for Rodgers if indeed they do wind up trading him?
Right, and that is a big if, Greeny, because they have maintained ever since Schefter broke this story that they are not trading him. That is an absolute right now. But that didn't stop me from asking a couple people around the league, and one high-ranking NFC executive told me it would be 2 first-round picks and a second-round pick. The thing to keep in mind, though, that may sound good on paper, right? But whoever they send Rodgers to theoretically should win 10, 11, 12, maybe even 13 games, which means those draft picks come at the end of those rounds. So maybe they would need even more than that, maybe even a player or two thrown in.
All right, that's outstanding work, as always. Rob Demovsky, thank you very much. And so let me bring the rest of my team in here for the first time this morning. Again, Chris Canty is here, Ryan Clark is there, and Kimberly Martin gets up with us as well. And Kmart, I'll start with you because you had a bunch of stuff in the meeting this morning. I know you've been calling around like crazy. What have you been hearing?
Greeny, one personnel exec I talked to described the situation as, getting rid of Michael Jordan in his prime. That's what would happen. That's what it would feel like if the Packers moved on from Aaron Rodgers. And when you ask guys, how many good years does Aaron Rodgers have? I hear back 5+ years. You know how old he'd be then? Tom Brady range, 42 years old. But he's so good that he instantly makes any team better. And I'll tell you what, another front office exec I spoke to whose team drafted a quarterback in the first round of a recent draft told me only 2 teams should not be on the phone right now, Kansas City and Tampa Bay. And he does not work for either of those teams.
All right, Ryan Clark, let's go. What do you... There's so much here to react to. I'm just going to give it to you. What in the world do you make of all this right this second?
Well, Greeny, we all know what my favorite documentary is. And I'll say this. Even Jerry Krause didn't get rid of Michael Jordan in his prime. So Brian Gutekunst, you can't be that guy that he's calling you on text chats. I think what it says right now is the Green Bay Packers understand that Aaron Rodgers just dug in. They understand how serious he truly is about whether it's this holdout that we may see coming or if it's him wanting to be traded to another team. So at least we're not delusional anymore into thinking that Aaron Rodgers is just going to break and be at practice. But now they have to start exploring trades, Greeny. They have to start seeing that if it does come to that, what are we going to do and what can we get in exchange for Aaron Rodgers? The other thing is this. Yesterday we were talking on NFL Live, and they were speaking about at least what people think the market would be was 2 1s and a 2. So you're telling me that Aaron Rodgers is only worth one extra pick more than Jamal Adams, that Aaron Rodgers doesn't even get you that much more than you would a Matthew Stafford? And so when I start to think about those things, I think to myself, and I know I took Jeff Saturday's place today because tomorrow my daughter graduates from college, so he switched with me. So I'm going to give it to you. If the Green Bay Packers do that, they are high. And I'm talking about on that good stuff, on that legal stuff that got all kind of different strands. You cannot do that. If you get rid of Aaron Rodgers, you need to get a king's ransom. You need a quarterback, you need picks, and you need other players. And so that's what the Green Bay Packers should be doing right now, along with adding quarterbacks to the roster. Stop tripping on the tampering. We know they tamper. Everybody got cell phones. Everybody got Instagram. They hitting him up in his DMs. Just make sure you get what you're supposed to when Aaron Rodgers decides he no longer wants to be a Green Bay Packer.
I agree with that. I'm not going to accuse them of making a big deal of it, but it does strike me as though if the one thing you fixate on all of this is are other teams tampering with Aaron Rodgers, you're really burying the lead to the ultimate degree. Chris Canty, I've not had a chance to talk with you about this, big fellow. What do you think of it, this idea? I particularly thought that was interesting what Domofsky said. Whatever team Aaron Rodgers goes to, they immediately become a legit Super Bowl contender, right?
There's no question about it. Whether he goes to the Denver Broncos, whether he goes to a team in the NFC, whoever he goes to, that team is going to be a legit contender. I mean, there's a handful of teams that you would probably say you could be dismissive of, but for the most part, if he goes to those other teams, they're going to be competitive at a really high level. So, yeah, those draft picks, it's not really going to amount to much in terms of being able to help your team immediately. But shame on Brian Gutekunst because he's the one that painted the organization into this corner. Like, it's no coincidence that this information leaked the day of the draft. What better way to show how the organization poorly handled this situation than the anniversary of Aaron Rodgers being blindsided by them drafting Jordan Love and not using that draft pick to get him a little more help. So, I mean, this is one of those situations right now. I don't know that there's going to be a clean way out of this if you're the Green Bay Packers organization, but shame on Brian Gutekunst because he's the one that put that organization in there in the first place.
Go, RC.
Oh, here we go.
No, Chris Canty, you cannot say it is no coincidence. Adam Schefter almost jumped through the screen and tried to fight me when I said it was a fortunate coincidence. Adam Schefter hit me with the biggest ESPN, I'm the man, I got 6 phones, all the GM's number move. He said, I'm the one that broke the story, and it's a coincidence. Adam Schefter was 6'2" after I said it was not a coincidence, so you can't say that. All we know is this. What we know is Aaron Rodgers is an intelligent man. This was well thought out. Aaron Rodgers made sure to not do this right after the draft last year because what did we all say? He's going to be hard to deal with. He's going to make it hell for Jordan Love. It's going to be a terrible place to be. All he did was be a good teammate, come out and play at an MVP level, and it set him up for this moment, for the moment to be the most coveted free agent, or if he gets the opportunity, the most coveted trade piece in the history of the NFL. And the Green Bay Packers better understand that too.
Kimberly Martin and Ryan Clark. We got a ton of Aaron Rodgers news to get to, but we must begin with Fight Night at Madison Square Garden. They've hosted a lot of great fights in that building over the years. Very few more spectacular than this one. Rangers Capitals. Now here's why this happened. Flashing back to Monday night, the Capitals' Tom Wilson, who to be kind, has a history of crossing the line. First, he punches the back of Pavel Buchnevich's head while he's lying on the ice. Then he grabs the Rangers star Artemi Panarin and does all sorts of terrible things to him. Panarin is out for the season, and then Wilson was not suspended. Instead, he was fined just $5,000. So the Rangers basically said, if the NHL isn't going to take care of business, we're going to have to. So, last night, this is the opening face-off. No one was even thinking about playing hockey at that moment. Tom Wilson, by the way, not even on the ice yet. And we have immediate fighting and we have immediate penalties and we got people in the box and feeling shame. And then just 49 seconds later, Tom Wilson comes on the ice. And it takes less than 5 seconds before Brendan Smith finds him and the gloves are dropped. Again, it is 4.8 seconds that Wilson is on the ice. And now we got more fisticuffs and we got more guys in the box. Again, the emotions running high. Now we're going to go 3 minutes and 24 seconds later. We got another fight. This would just not stop through the entire first period, and it was easy to see it coming. Then no time would pass before the ensuing face-off, and that's it. We're not even bothering with the face-off. We're just dropping the gloves. In the end, there would be 100 penalty minutes assessed in the first period. And by the way, the Capitals would win the game by a final score of 4-2. But in the end, that hardly even seemed as though it mattered. That was the night at the Garden last night.
Should have been handled before this game, and it wasn't. So unfortunately, it had to be kind of on my shoulders, and I thought I took it.
And so in the end, there were 141 combined penalty minutes, 12 fighting majors, 6 10-minute misconducts. It was the first NHL game in almost 3 years where both teams recorded at least 50 penalty minutes, and the third such game between the Rangers and Capitals in the last 25 years. So that was the story last night. Now to the story of the year.